Well, hello everyone, it's Ben Hardy here, and in today's video we have to talk about luxury dealerships because the situation that they're experiencing currently is quite a bit different than your regular run-of-the-mill non-luxury store or used car lot. But before we get in this video, as always, if you want to save time and money, the next time you purchase a car, link to my car buying guide in the description down below. And then if you want to see more videos just like this, then I recommend you subscribe because I post content every single day. Let's get into it. To properly explain what luxury car dealers are currently experiencing, we need to talk about how luxury car dealerships are run significantly different compared to non-luxury stores. So the first key difference you're going to see is with the customer service. At a luxury store, it's generally significantly better than what you'll experience at a non-luxury store, and this makes logical sense. If you go to, like, I don't know, McDonald's versus a high-end restaurant, right? At the high-end restaurant, you tend to have much better customer service because the product that you're paying for is significantly more expensive. Dealerships operate in a similar fashion. And so because there is this like custom tailored luxury experience associated with purchasing a luxury car, it attracts a certain demographic of consumers that tend to purchase more vehicles than your regular consumers. So with most consumers in today's car world, they're going to purchase a car on the short side of things every 2 to 3 years, but with a lot of people, it's now every 4 to 5 years roughly. The trend's kind of getting slightly pushed out currently because of how expensive vehicles are and because of how long loan terms are. But with luxury car dealerships, with a lot of their customer base, it's literally like every single year, and luxury dealers will have a large group of customers that'll purchase cars like every few months. Like, it gets pretty crazy the amount of vehicles that these customers will end up purchasing, and so it creates a much different customer to dealer dynamic. So with a non-luxury store, since they're going to be selling that customer a car every 2, 3, 4, 5 plus years, the relationship that they're going to have is going to be a lot more loose. And so what you tend to see is customers that purchase from non-luxury stores will go from dealership to dealership and just shop a bunch of stores and just try to find the best deal. Whereas with luxury car dealerships, what you tend to see is a customer will pick a particular luxury brand, and then they will pick a particular store, and then they'll just buy all their cars from that store. And that's just how that happens. And so that whole relationship situation is very important for luxury stores. And again, that goes back to the whole customer service point. And that's why customer service is so important to them, is because they know that when they sell a person a car, they're probably going to sell that person another 30 to 50 plus cars over the next couple of decades that that customer is a customer with that dealership. And I say customer like 50 times. So we're done with this clip. And so because these luxury car dealerships have this customer base that is consistently purchasing vehicles from them, they have to make sure that they don't put those customers in a situation to where they won't be able to trade in their vehicle because if they take out loans, they have too much negative equity, or if they pay cash for cars, that they lose so much money on those vehicles that it just doesn't make sense for them to buy another vehicle from the dealership. And so it's definitely this balancing act that luxury car dealerships kind of have to go through. But the balancing act isn't as difficult as you'd think because of how much power luxury car dealerships have over the markets in their regions. So one of the key benefits of being a luxury car dealership is you generally have less competition compared to non-luxury stores. Like, what you will typically see in any given market is you might have like one luxury store in a particular area, and then that's it. But then if you look at like, a regular non-luxury brand in that same area, you might have like 3 or 4 stores all competing with each other. And so the pricing dynamics are generally significantly different. But because of this whole situation, it allows luxury stores to kind of set used car prices within their region, which means that they can put deals together for their clients that are consistently buying cars to where they're going to make sense. So maybe, every so often they'll quote unquote overpay for a vehicle that a customer is trading in to make it so they can buy another car. But again, because they're kind of setting those values with the market control that they have, they're not really overpaying because they'll just make sure that that car then is sold for more on the used market. And yes, obviously national values always affect things, but like I've said time and time again on this channel, car markets are localized. And so there's a lot of, quote unquote, market manipulation that can happen on a local level. And this is something that I have personally seen like quite a bit as I have been looking at cars on the market, because like I'll look at cars on like a national basis and I'll be like, wow, there's cars priced in this range and they have this amount of miles and they're in this condition. And then I'll look at cars within certain regions and it's like same miles, same year, same condition, but it's selling for significantly more. And I go, that dealer, either they think their car's worth all the money or they have a captive market and they're basically setting the prices on that car. And you can sometimes see this with non-luxury stores, but again, there's usually so much competition because there's a lot more non-luxury stores in any given area that it's just not as feasible. Now, before I pull everything together and explain why this whole luxury store situation is very important for what's happening within the current market, I need to talk about the type of clientele that luxury stores attract. And I think it should be pretty self-explanatory. They attract wealthier buyers, right? You have to make more money, generally speaking, to purchase a luxury car. And if you want to purchase multiple luxury cars every single year, well, to be able to survive that level of depreciation, you got to make a little bit more money, right? It just makes logical sense. And so with this wealthier buyer base, they tend to not be impacted as much when economic hardships, sweep through the nation, because it gets to a certain point where if you're making a certain income level, like if food prices, double, like what we've seen with certain items over the last few months, especially eggs, right? For example, like that's going to hurt someone that's making, minimum wage a lot. But if someone is making, let's say, I don't know, $500,000, $1 million plus per year, they're going to go to the store and they'll be like, man, eggs are really expensive. And then they're just going to move on with their lives because it's like, oh, it goes from, $4 to $8 for a carton of eggs. They're like, oh, that sucks. But like, it's such a small percentage of their overall income. And so you can extrapolate that to just everything within the economy. And so now that you know that these wealthier buyers aren't impacted as much by the economy, this is what leads us into a pretty interesting circumstance. So if you look at the overall car market, you look at non-luxury dealerships, and you look at used car lots, they're all kind of having a similar experience. Massive market declines and buying demand is pretty much drying up. Now, there are some brands that aren't really experiencing this, like Toyota and Honda, for example. They still have quite a bit of demand behind those brands, and those are obviously non-luxury brands. But the general rule is that demand is dying down, and the other big rule is that over MSRP markups are also dying down. Now, yes, again, there are certain vehicles within non-luxury brands that are still selling for over MSRP, but for the most part, most of those markups are gone in terms of what actual people are paying for real cars today. But if you contrast that to luxury dealerships, this is absolutely not what we're seeing. Not only are luxury dealerships still able to charge markups over MSRP, they still have just as much demand for their product as what they've had over the last couple of years. Now, yes, it has died down somewhat, and luxury car wholesale values have declined with the overall market. But what you have to remember is these market declines don't affect these wealthier buyers as much as they're going to affect a regular buyer. If you have a wealthy buyer that purchased a car and they lose a bunch of money on the car in the form of depreciation, they're going to be like, oh, that sucks, but they're probably going to have enough money to be able to back that up. They're going to be like, oh, well, instead of buying 6 cars this year, I guess I can only buy 5 because I lost $100,000 on that G-Wagon that I bought, which that's definitely a situation that a lot of people experienced over the course of 2022. And so this is actually creating an interesting split within the car market to where, like I said, these luxury stores are still, like, they're jam-packed. Like, they're still selling cars, and it's crazy because I will go into a luxury store to film, and I'll ask them how many cars they sold the prior month, and they'll tell me, and then I'll go into a non-luxury store, and the luxury store not only sold more cars, but obviously they've made more profit than the non-luxury store because they sold those cars for significantly more than the non-luxury store. And I know it's a little bit more on the anecdotal side of things, but generally speaking, you can kind of extrapolate this throughout different regions in the US. And I mean, this is why if you look at, some of these high-end luxury vehicles, they have like insane price premiums and people are just buying them as soon as they land. Like Mercedes G-Wagons, they're still going for $10, $20, $30, $40, $50,000 over MSRP. People are still paying it. The new Land Rover, Range Rover, that's going for like $100,000 over MSRP in certain areas, and people are paying it. And not only are they paying it, like they're paying it right away. Like those vehicles are sold before they even hit the dealership lot. It is absolutely ridiculous. And so what this is ultimately doing is it's actually continuing to basically keep luxury values high on the new car front. On the used car front, though, it's a little bit of a different story because the same buyer base that likes to buy cars all the time tends to like to buy new cars all the time. And so this is something that I think is very important to note if you are considering purchasing a luxury car in the current market that we are experiencing. So with new cars, it's pretty much a bidding battle with most luxury brands. Like, you're just going to have to pay up if you want to get a new version of the car. However, if you are patient and you're willing to wait for that car to pop up on the used market, not with every single vehicle, but with most vehicles, there's a pretty high chance that you're going to be able to get a huge discount off of what a person would pay brand new. An example I will use that I know is more expensive, and I'll use another less expensive example in just a moment, but is the Mercedes G-Wagon. If you go into a Mercedes dealership and you ask to, buy a new G-Wagon, chances are they'll tell you for like a base one, you're gonna have to pay $20,000, $30,000 over a sticker, and if you want, the G63, you're gonna have to pay $50,000 plus over a sticker. But if you look at the used market right now, you can find, base new body style G-Wagons for under MSRP significantly, and same thing with the G63s as well. And then if you guys want a more affordable example, look at a lot of products with Lexus. Lexus dealers have pulled back quite a bit in terms of their markups, but a lot of them will still charge, especially for the hot product, $2, $3, $4, $5, maybe even $10,000 over MSRP for it. But if you look at those cars in the used market, yeah, a lot of them are still selling for close to original MSRP, but some of them are under original MSRP, and this is for a car that, maybe doesn't have a lot of miles on it and is barely used. And so I am going to just go out on a limb here and say that I think that that's where the deals are to be had if you're looking at any sort of luxury car, is within the used market. Now, right now might not be the ideal time because I still think that there's definitely more room for these used values to decline. But I think that it's probably going to be the best area to purchase in is on the used side, because again, the buyers that are paying these huge price premiums only want to pay that for the brand new cars. As soon as the car's used, it's like lost its shine. It's just a mentality thing. It's crazy, but that's just how it works in that world. They want the newest, nicest, shiniest, most expensive thing, and then as soon as it's not that anymore, then they want the next best thing, and then it's just a continuation. It's kind of like an addiction in a way. That's pretty much going to sum things up for today's video, talking about the weird world of luxury car dealers. And if you get anything from this video, I think it should just be a few things. First off, if you can find a luxury car dealership that is willing to sell you the more exciting product with no markup, I think that's definitely a relationship that is worth, building over time. But if you can't find that, then I would just focus on the used luxury car market. And this has typically been the thing to do since like the beginning of the automobile, because luxury cars tend to depreciate way more than non-luxury vehicles. And this is what we're starting to see again in today's market. And so if you're patient with these luxury car values, you're gonna be able to pick up some pretty cool cars for some really good deals in the near future. And it's not like there's anything wrong with the cars. It's just because with that market, the consumer base likes to purchase brand new. They don't like to purchase used nearly as much. And I just wouldn't play the markup game with luxury stores, because that's a game that you as a regular consumer, even if you make good money, you'll always lose. Because what you have to understand is that with non-luxury brands, you'll have a bunch of different types of people purchasing from them, but the amount of money that consumers have that are purchasing from luxury stores is just on a whole nother level. Like when I worked at the Dodge Ram dealership, I would have, your average Joe come in and purchase a truck all the time, and sometimes I would have someone come in that was, maybe like a millionaire or maybe like a multi-millionaire. Like that was pretty rare, but sometimes it would happen. However, with luxury car dealerships, they're not only working with millionaires on a regular basis, they're working with billionaires on a regular basis. Like you'll have customers that will literally buy like 20 plus cars from the dealership in a given year. And again, it's just some random billionaire that just wants a new car every other week, it seems. And it's like, you can't compete with that person, because like, you might see a $50,000 over MSRP addendum on a vehicle and be like, that's ridiculous, who could pay that? But when someone's worth, $3, $4, $5 billion, or maybe even more, $50,000, it's like they'd wipe their you-know-what with that, right? So I wouldn't play the game. I wouldn't play the bidding up game. I would instead, just see what happens with those cars on the used market. If you can find a dealer that's not going to play that whole crazy markup game. And I guess I shouldn't call it a game, because ultimately, It's the customers that they're working with that are basically enabling that whole situation, because they're saying, I want that vehicle so bad, I'll give you whatever you, and that's literally how it goes with these luxury stores, is the customer will tell the dealership that they will pay whatever the dealership wants. And this is what dealers will tell me time and time again, is they'll have a car come in and they'll have it sold to a customer, and they'll have another customer that'll say that they'll pay $50,000 more than that guy just to get it. Like, it's that insane. But anyways, that's going to sum things up. I'll see ya.